Welcome to Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. This is a special edition for us. This is our Black History edition. And on this show, we will get a chance, which you've been watching during the course of the year, to talk about the Black 14. But I brought some great people on to talk about it. When you're going to talk about an event, you bring in the heavies. I go to USA Today every day to read because I don't know. It's my Bible, and I should read the other one good, but I read it every day. And I have a guy on there named Jared Bell. Welcome to the show, JB.
Hey, what's going on, Tony? Yeah, you definitely just admitted that you are like so misguided if USA Today is your Bible. But anyway, we'll accept the compliments, man. It's good to be here as usual, man.
Good, hell yeah. We're going to kick it around, but we got to bring in another JB. So I had to bring you in. You know, this JB, you go to CBS, you go to Home Team Sports. Oh, that's that old one that we used to see there. You go to ESPN, you go anywhere in the world and you see this guy doing this thing. He's the one, the only hardest working man I know, James Brown. Welcome to the show, JB.
Hey, good to be with you. And let me just add on to Jared Bell. You know, President Ronald Reagan used to have the expression trust but verify. That's exactly what I think about when I think about Jared Bell, because there's nobody, Donna, who does the homework better to verify what he's heard than our guy, Jared Bell.
Hello. Well, you know what? You talk to Donna because her sources are wrong. So are you telling Donna she should get involved with Jared Bell? Now, she's been with, for all you fans, just think, this young lady been on the show for 20 years. Still get it wrong, but we still bring her back. Donna Hopkins.
Tony, I just want to clarify that I never get it wrong. And I just want to shout out to JB because when I first came to the Washington area and started covering the Washington football team, he was my mentor. I was down at WUSA TV and he was helping me along the way as far as a new person getting into journalism. So I always commend him, and you also, Tony, for the opportunities that you gave me, even though you don't listen to me half the time, but that's okay because we know who's right.
Well, you know, you only half right then. If I ain't listening to you now, but you know I listen to you. When we go back, though, when I was in New England, I garnered a name because I could get to the quarterback called Mac the Sack. I'm going to tell you, the man that gave me that name is on the television today. Not only did he give me a name, he gave me a reason to play. One of the baddest men I know, the baddest fullback that I've ever played with. One of the baddest ones, you look him up, they called him Sam Bam Cunningham. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, Tony, man. That's, I don't know what to say. That's you know, I live here with my family. They don't talk about me at all. So, but it's just an honor to be with all of you. And you know, you've had this show for quite a while, and this is my first time on. So thank you for having me. And hopefully we can learn something and get a chance to know one another better. Thank you.
Well, you know what, Bam, I was on your show the other day. It's a great show as well. And then if you get an opportunity to see his show, he got a great show, the Sam Bam Show. It comes on what network?
I'm on the Visual platform. It's a streaming platform. You know, you got to get a little app, and then it's go to the NFL alumni channel and put in Sam Bam Show, and it pops up. And you know, we have a bunch of nuts on there and a bunch of good people, and we just have a good time with it. And I thank you for coming on. You know, it's just like being at home because, you know, you family, and that's what it is.
Me and Sam have spent Christmas Eves together. We'd have been caught in snowstorms. We've been together a long time. So I'm gonna get started with you. I know you fans are probably saying, I thought it was Black history. Well, that young man that you were looking at, Sam Cunningham, is Black history. And I'm gonna let him tell you a little bit about his story because he went to USC, and a lot of people didn't understand that he was not just a big back to jump over the line. He could run over, through you, and by you. And when he had the opportunity to play in the SEC back in that time, it was many all-white teams. And when he got a chance to play with Alabama, I let him take the story, play against Alabama, I let him take the story from there.
Well, that game was September 12th, 1970, many years, over 50 years ago. So it was crazy. It was my first varsity game, my first road trip. I didn't even start. I was a backup fullback. Our starting quarterback was Jimmy Jones, a black quarterback, which was rare at that time. Clarence Davis was our outstanding tailback, you know, because back then we were noted as tailback U. We already had 2 Heisman Trophy winners, Mike Garrett and O.J. Simpson. So, you know, we were loaded. We were loaded, and the game happened because the NC2A allowed an extra game that season. And Coach Bryant and Coach McGee were very close friends, you know, because Alabama never played anybody of any substance in their preseason, you know. So, you know, I think Coach Bryant looked at it as an opportunity to convince the people that he worked for and the people that he played for, you know, coached for, I mean, you know, the fans, that it's time to open the door and start recruiting black football players, black athletes. So they made it happen at the LAX airport. I think Coach Bryant offered Coach McGee $100,000 to play, bring our team to Alabama, Birmingham. Coach McGee said, only if you take $250 to bring your team back the next year to LA Coliseum. So that's how it started. Started on a handshake, probably with a cigar and a glass of dark liquor. And it is what it is. Now in this day and age, it would just be really crazy how to get something like that happening. But anyway, I was a part of that team, you know, and I get the lion's share of the credit of what happened that evening. But, you know, we were an integrated team. It was loaded and you know, the good hand of the Lord touched me on that shoulder that night and allowed me to get in and play. And you know, I carried the ball 12 times, 135 yards, 2 touchdowns, the first African-American player to score in Legion Field in Birmingham. We were the first integrated team to play on that field. And the rest is history. You look, you know, I mean, you look at Alabama now and the monster that they are probably was because of that one game in 1970. So to be a part of some history like that and being able to influence college football as we did that night is just an honor. And you know, get a chance to talk about it. I try to protect it because if I let too many people get a hold of it, they just gonna run with it and talk crazy about it. But it was a very special night, and you know, and then I end up playing there and then going up to New England and meeting Tony. Well, I actually met Tony in Chicago, and you know, I was beating up some of his teammates. And it was my rookie year, so you know you got to play hard, Tony. You can't take no plays off, right? And then you know Tony came to New England the next year, and we became you know family and friends. And here I am on the show trying to explain why you know I'm on the show.
Well, you know what, guys, you have to listen to what he's saying. And Jared, you know, you followed him a long time. He's not talking about how great of a fullback he was when he played the game, but he was kind of, and James, you followed him too. He was kind of the first unique big fullback to play the game that had speed and could do more than just blocking everything. He kind of revolutionized not only just the SEC, but also the position.
Yeah, that's interesting because the terminology that we use, halfback and fullback, is definitely evolved over the years. Now, I'll disagree with you when you say he was the first fullback because Jim Brown was a fullback. A lot of people, when you think about Jim, when you think about Jim Brown, he was a fullback. Marion Motley was a fullback.
Yes.
But I think the way you mean it, Tony, obviously is, you know, the guys that carry the football and they are so big that they can, you know, be multi-dimensional. But I think when you think about his legacy, it just really goes to that night in Birmingham. And you think about the SEC, not only Alabama, but that whole conference that was just all white, and they were so resistant to change. And you think about the civil rights movement, and this just kind of, really just took it to another level. Now, oh, by the way, while this is going on, we're on the heels of the Black 14 and what you experienced, Tony, at the University of Wyoming. So it was just such a changing time in American history and obviously in sports and college football history that, that one game, because I think Bear Bryant, said it afterwards, like, this is why we need to have black players on our team so we can compete. And
he might have said it a little differently with his friends. He'll said it here.
I think his vernacular was a little bit different.
Yeah.
But that's a nice way to put it. JB, when Bam was playing, what stood out with you about him? And I only got a minute, so we'll get this one. I'll tell you what, let's go and bring some other people in. We'll finish talking about Bam when we get back in. Hey, fans, come back, go out there and get your potato chips, your popcorn, and everything, and find somebody to get Donna Hawkins some information. We'll be back in a moment.
Tony. I've got plenty.
Well, welcome back to the show. And as you know, I was able to eat a half a ham, 4 chicken legs, and oh, that's right. I can't tell y'all what I'm doing. But let's finish that conversation. Donna, what do you remember about Sam Bam?
Well, I remember the name, Tony, Sam Bam Cunningham. When you heard that name, you knew who they were talking about. I want to know where Bam came from, but even more so that it is said that your life was governed by 4 rules and 2 by your dad in never giving up, give everything you had, and have fun and be a good teammate. How did that transpire throughout your whole NFL career? And then even today, could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, my dad gave me those 2 rules. When I went to him and wanted to play football, he said, well, the rule is once you start, you can't stop, you can't quit, and give everything you had. Now, I had a coach in elementary school. We had an after-school program, and his name was Bill Van Schack, and he was the one that taught me how to just be a really good teammate and have fun. And I took those 4 rules and just ran with it the entire time. I didn't try to make it real complicated about this and complicated about that. And Tony knows. You get at the highest level of the game, there's always politics. But at the end of the day, you have to set them aside and go back to your basic foundation and kind of just play so you can free yourself up and play. So, and those rules have helped me. I've tried to teach my kids that, and my god kids and my nieces and nephews and everybody, because, a lot of times these millennials make life real, real complicated, you know what I mean? And they got so many things swirling around them. So I just say, man, step back away from it and just try to enjoy and have fun, because as you get older, you're going to care less about the stuff you thought was really important, and you'll really care about the stuff that really is important. So
yeah, what's important. It's like the monkey said when his tail got caught in the fan.
Won't be long
now.
Yeah.
Won't be long anymore. JB, you deferred to Donna, so you got to get something in and tell me something about Bam.
Hey, I'm smiling with Jared Bell because I'm gonna write that one down. I'll give him credit though, Jared, when I speak, but I'm gonna write that one down. But going along the lines of where Donna was going, Sam, I think back to, again, you guys were a very diverse program, if I'm not mistaken, Evans, going back to maybe even the 20s, unlike where George Wallace in the state there banned, Black people playing football and so many other things down there in the state. Were you even conscious of that? Did that even affect you as you guys were preparing for that game? Once you were on the field, did you feel anything different at all?
Well, I probably, if I had knew it was going to turn out the way it was, I probably would have paid way more attention. But it was my first varsity game, my first road trip. So, I'm kind of hyped and excited because of that more so than anything. And I'm a sophomore, so I'm really not in a position of leadership or anything of that nature. I'm just one of the guys. And, and our coaching staff, and our coaching staff at that time had one Black coach, Willie Brown, who played for SC, had 2 brothers that played in the NFL. I mean, not NFL, Major League Baseball, but he was born and raised in Alabama. So it was like a homecoming trip back for him. So, there's probably a lot of emotions in his mind going on. And, they never did stress the racial aspect of this game. They just stressed the fact that we're playing a very, very elite program, and we have to be ready to give everything we have and play as well as we can. So, you know, I mean, I was just following instructions and doing what I was supposed to do. And, you know, we had a lot of great players who were there, white and black players. And, you know, we just went out and played and we had a heck of a game. Now that football team that year only went 6-4-1. So if we had played Alabama later in the season, who knows? We might not have been played as well as we did. But because it was the first game, you know, we were hyped up and played well, you know, and I mean, we beat them 42-21 and the game was over long before that. I probably could have put 200 on them if I had played. But, and then, you know, and then
I like
somebody
that.
else
You could have
could have
dropped
put
two
another
on
150. You could have put another 150. But, and I'm not saying this to say they were not good. They were just not as good as we were. So, you know, you know, you sometimes you have to be respectful of who you play against. You have to be respectful of what's the areas. And, you know, just like you said earlier, there was so many things going on in that era, civil rights wise, and just everything, you know, Vietnam War, putting a man on the moon, you know, Dr. King's assassination, just many, many things. So it fit right in with change, you know, but sports, there's a finality about it when it happens, you know what I mean? And that's what happened that evening.
All right, thank you, Bam. Well, you know, if you heard from Sam Bam, there was a lot going on during that course of time. And in 1969, 14 athletes wanted to go over and talk to their coach about playing a school named Brigham Young. All they wanted to do was show him armbands. And here we are 50 years later, and we're going to bring some of those players on. The Black 14. We'll be back in a moment. If you had a chance to look at that, it was 14 of us, but today we have the pleasure of having a few of the Black 14 here. People that was there and experienced that moment when the coach told you, save you a lot of time and breath. As of this moment, you're no longer a Wyoming Cowboy. We got Lionel Grimes here, one of the best cornerbacks to ever play the game. But one thing about him, if you saw in that picture, he had on glasses, so you know he was one of them smart players. he had on glasses with his football uniform on, so you know he was smart. Then you got Guillermo Highsaw. He was born in Bakersfield, California. Granny Goose potato chips. Stimulating and provocative. Wide receiver. You got now they got John Griffin up here. You can't see John, but John, we say hello to you anyway.
Hey, Tone. Nice to be here, man.
Wait a minute, man. You supposed to, you've been telling me how, so you've been really just playing with me. You don't know how to work the computer either, do you?
Shoot. I
think we're all Tony Gibson, one of the baddest fullbacks. He had just got a chance to start, and they messed over us, and he didn't get a chance to play. But I tell you what, this guy has always been a stand-up guy and a great guy. And last but not least, we got the mayor. We got Mel Hamilton. And one thing that you guys need to talk to him about, back during Thanksgiving, he was working with the Jesus Latter-day Saints, and we was able to get 450 tons of food, was it, Mel?
$450,000.
$450,000 worth of food to go into the places in the underserved neighborhoods. And, you know, Mel, tell us a little bit about that quickly. These guys are waiting to ask you questions, but tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we were studying food insecurity, and of course, COVID highlighted that in a very terrible way. And Tony and John and I was talking about what can we do. So I took it upon myself to contact the LDS Church, and I talked to Gifford Nielsen. And if you remember, Gifford was a nominee for the, what was that, Tony?
Heisman.
The Heisman Trophy, played quarterback at BYU.
Now, you know, I can't even remember my name. How am I going to remember his?
Anyway, I told him, I said, man, we have to do something. And he said, Mel, write a proposal. So I wrote the proposal on the Black 14 proficiency program that we started, and sure enough, he accepted it. we sent 40,000 tons of non-perishable food to Cleveland, Washington, D.C., Denver, Colorado, Boys Town, Nebraska,
Battle Creek, Michigan.
Battle Creek, Michigan.
Pittsfield, Massachusetts.
That's right, Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and Denver, Colorado. Man, we sent it all over the place. Charleston, South Carolina, and Wilmington, North Carolina.
And Laramie, Wyoming.
And Laramie, Wyoming, and the Indian reservation.
That's right.
In
That's right.
Wyoming. So we did a lot of good things around Thanksgiving time, and we intend to continue our relationship with the LDS Church to help in food insecurity around the nation, and hopefully we will get around the world eventually.
Thank you. Now, hey guys, you can ask the question. We got a few minutes left in here, but keep your answers kind of to a couple of minutes. Hey, shoot away at them. And I'm gonna ask any of you, and people have asked me this question. I'm gonna ask you, Guillermo, quick. And now Guillermo, he'll write the Odyssey on us. So Gerald, give us a quick one right here. But what made you go to the University of Wyoming? What was your decision?
Well, my coach was personal friends with Lloyd Eaton. And before me, he had sent the Berry brothers, Marion Berry and his brother, to Wyoming before me, right out of high school. So I was headed to USC, I thought. Mike Garrett was a personal friend of my grandmother. And so he and I were talking about me coming there and following in his footsteps. So last minute, next thing I know, I'm on a plane flying up to Wyoming to do an interview and with Lloyd Eaton. And so he gave me this story about, hey, do you want to be a big fish in a little pond or a little fish in a big pond? And I said, what are you talking about? He said, if you go to USC, you'll be a little fish in a big pond and you may not get to play until your junior year. I was a running back out of high school. And so he said, but if you come to Wyoming, you can be a big fish in a little pond. We're growing and the school is moving up. We think we're going to be in the top 10, which they were the next 3 years. So I said, you know, the decision is pretty clear to me. My coach wanted me to go to Wyoming, and after meeting Lloyd and the staff, then I made the decision to go to Wyoming.
So Sam, when you said that he went there because he heard you were coming to USC, is that why he didn't go to USC? Was he a little worried?
No, I think if him and Mike were friends and close, they was gonna play after him. I wasn't ready to go yet.
Yeah, Sam is younger than me, man. He's years younger.
Yes, I was. You know, but I do have a question though, and anybody can answer it, or you can answer it. You know, I remember my maturity back in at that age, you know, and I don't know if I could have made a decision or participated in a decision of that nature,
right?
That not knowing what the outcome would be. Yeah. And I mean, it didn't really have a whole lot to do with football, but it had a lot to do with being Black and stepping up, and then believing the people who organized it and how it was going to work out. So, I mean, how did you guys come? I mean, I know you guys came to that decision on being a part of it. And then after seeing what if they had your back or not, how did you feel about it?
Yeah, why don't you take that? Because you were married at that time. I know you weren't too, Guillermo, but you were there and you had to make a decision not only for yourself, but you and your wife.
Right.
Well, I came from a junior college in California. Okay. And when I was there, when I was in my junior college in Taft, OJ was at the USC. So they were back home. They were always saying something about, Gibson, I'm the other Tony. I refer to myself as the only Tony because out of the Black 14, Tony McGee's the real Tony. So I'm the other Tony.
I don't know about that.
You jumped right on that, did you? Both feet. Throw Tony up under the bus.
But yeah, I told them in Laramie that I was going to be married. They recruited me from Taft, and I flew out to visit, and I told them I was going to be married. And that didn't seem to bother them one way or the other. And they recruited me, and they were looking for a running back and a blocking back, they said. So I jumped right on it and headed out there and see what was going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, my response to your question is the coach, I relied on him heavily to help me make that decision, because I didn't have that within the family ranks, even though one of my uncles had played for what used to be called the Texas Texans and then eventually Dallas Cowboys. And so I didn't ask my uncle, but my coach, I thought, because the Berries, had come there before me and he was sending all his best players to Wyoming, I relied heavily on my coach's judgment. I didn't know how I was going to be treated. I just know when I was coming in for a landing on the plane, I was looking for the city. And I'm looking all around and I didn't see, where is Laramie at? I didn't see it because we're way out. So I thought, man, maybe I'm making a mistake, coming here, but I used the coach's judgment, and that's why I ended up there.
And I guess my question is for you all, after you all showed a lot of power in the protests and your principles after this, but I'm wondering the day after you all are let go and they're saying that you're off the team, where did you all get together? What was the mindset of where we go from here? Where do we go from here as the Black 14?
Well, after they pulled me off the ledge with a rope around my neck, I went home back to the dorm and realized that I may have made a mistake. But you have to take a look at it. And at that time, everything was going on down there, and there was so many people that was against us and then a few that was for us. And it really was a shock because we had been told by the Black Student Alliance that we had colleges waiting for us.
Right.
And, when our scholarships disappeared, the gentleman that told us it disappeared as well. And so, the thing is, it was kind of sad, but I'll let some of the other guys tell you. But one thing we did do, and that's why I had a gift to come in first, we went back and everyone that was married or anyone that, they had a wife or they was there with their fiance or something, we told them, you don't have to do this because we may lose our scholarship. And everyone to a T wanted to do it. But I'll let some of the other guys, I'll go to Mel or someone, because Mel was there twice.
Yeah, Sam, first of all, Sam, I want to thank you for what you did for football and the Black athlete. I think I'm glad I got the opportunity to see you and meet you.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. What could you not, we could not do nothing. We were in the middle of a social revolution. We were called upon to add to the movement. And this is how I looked at it. So yes, I was kind of afraid that I was going to lose that scholarship that I fought so hard to get, but I had to do something. And I think that our ancestors were calling upon us to do it. I heard them in my mind, and so I answered that call. So I had to do something. Yes, we were young and didn't have counsel, but we knew we had to do something. And Sam, that's how I came to my decision. I was called upon to add to those that went before me.
This is Lionel Grimes. I think the next day, my biggest fear was the phone call I had to make to my father. When I had to call my father and tell him that I was no longer on scholarship, because one of our goals as a family, and as me in particular, like AE always jokes with me about my glasses. I mean, I couldn't see really, because that was crazy, because Lloyd Eaton would buy me some contact lenses, but he wouldn't pay for my books because I didn't like Laramie. So, but anyway, that was my fearful call then because, and as I look back, I did have some experience with that because I remember in high school, I went to a little school, a little town, Alliance, Ohio, and the principal gets on the phone and calls all the colored people down to the auditorium. And as I think back, I said, wow, and we went. And we kind of did the same thing in Laramie, man. We went peacefully, as I say, respectfully, but it was totally wrong. And I went there for a free scholarship. So for him to take that away, that hurt me the most. So that's how I ended up coming there because it was a free scholarship and it was late in my career. But I had experience with dealing with racism in a small community before, but never at that level. But after my dad accepted it and they said we'll get through it, I was okay with that. And thank you everyone for.
Yeah, A.E. alluded to it in the beginning when he said that we went back and we had a conversation amongst ourselves. And he did say those that, because we had an option. We weren't just off the team. The coach said, you could come back, but you can come back to me individually and ask for your scholarships, but not as a faction. So we had to make a decision whether we were going to go back to him individually and ask for our scholarships back. Well, I knew that wasn't an option for me. But A.E., because I had talked too much and had been too visible, and the pride things kicked in where, hey, I'm not going and ask this guy for my scholarship back after the way he talked to us in the field house. And so, Tony did say, hey, some of you have families and you have other considerations, and we're not going to be upset with you if you go back and ask for your scholarship. But privately, I was hoping, man, I hope none of these brothers go in there and ask for their scholarship back. I hope we all went over there together. I hope we all leave this campus together. That was my private thought, but I knew for me, that wasn't an option, even though he gave us one.
Well, Guillermo, he did not want us to ask him to return to the team.
Right.
He wanted us to return asking the white
players.
They
did in front of all the players, right?
Right. And I say, oh, hell no.
Right.
Hell no.
Right.
I got to jump in there for a minute. The white players never responded to me personally to any of this. What had happened? They never came to me. One of the coaches called me at home, probably a month and a half or a month after the incident, and he said to me that you're one of the players we want back. Now, some of the guys even to this day don't know this, but I told some of them. And he said, but if you tell anyone that I made this call, I'm going to deny it. So I said, why would you think I'd come back and play for you? And you're going to lie about contacting me, one of the black players that you wanted back? I told him I would never come back to Laramie. That was a mistake to tell him that because I did come back 50 years later. But I was never going to play for a person that treated us in that way, ever.
Right.
We have some more guests we got to bring in, and we're going to continue this conversation after the break. But one thing you have to realize, it was a dangerous situation. I know that I left there 2 days after I left there. They called my room, and Ted Williams was my roommate, and they told him that they were going to get me. And 2 days after I left, they found a guy on the top of a building with a high-powered rifle. I took a break that time too, so we'll take a break now, just in case. Welcome back, and I know you've probably been hearing this voice in the background, and that's John Griffin, and he can't get it on right now, but John will be asking you questions. Speaking of questions, when you start following us, Jared, and I remember a couple of years ago when one of the first articles came out, you called me, and it was, what stuck out to you about that Black 14 situation?
Well, I spin it forward to today, and the fact that you guys have this incredible bond still more than 50 years later is pretty remarkable, and it's inspiring to see. You keep the story out there. You guys have remained friends. You guys, one of the things I learned, just kind of how it impacted your life and followed you in your various walks of life and careers over the years. And when you think about it too, it all kind of came together organically. I mean, even though there was the organization that protested, you guys got together at that time when you went to see Coach Eaton, and it just, like I said, all kind of came together. And you guys have talked about it on this show, and how even in reflecting at that time, you allowed for the individuals to break away if they wanted to. They thought they needed to go back to their scholarships to get their scholarships and whatnot. So it's an incredible story and a dynamic of the story, on top of, you know, the tragedy that definitely happened. But one thing I do want to ask the 14, any of you or all of you, is when you think about what happened in the NFL with Colin Kaepernick years later, I wonder how that resonated with you in particular when you knew what Colin Kaepernick sacrificed in starting that movement, and what it meant in reflecting on your own situation years before that.
My initial reaction to Colin Kaepernick's situation was that he wanted to use the platform of football to address social issues. We felt that social issues didn't have any place in football, so it was just the opposite. What the Mormons believed and how they thought of us, they could believe whatever they wanted to. From a religious perspective, it didn't have any place on the gridiron. And I thought that was the big difference. He used football for a platform to address social issues, and we saw the religious issues as not having any place on the football field. So
but
that
with
was
that being said, Guillermo, remember to tell them that me and you were the only ones that really had the issues on the field, because a lot of those guys never played against it. And me, you, and Mel. We were the only one who knew about that. And what I'm talking to you guys, Guillermo and I were the only ones that were on the team the year before when we played them. And a lot of guys that came in, like Gibson and everybody, they were, some of them were looking at the religion as part of the problem.
That's correct.
We were looking at our treatment on the field. But you guys go ahead, and I just wanted to throw that in right quick. But JB, you and I have talked about it a lot. You said you saw it today. And did you see anything different? Or what did you think about your thought process when you saw it again today, 50 years later?
Tony, not unlike many other people, quite frankly, as I called you before the show, I almost didn't want to be on the show because I was so hurt to see what it took place. I mean, that's a human reaction, and to see how widespread it is. And with all due respect, I think discrimination in any form, whether it's in business, whether it's in religion, look, I'm distinctly a man of faith. I have no shame in the game from that standpoint. I have a biblical worldview. And if God is not a respecter of person, how can anybody else be that way? Well, no matter what it is. So as pained as I was to hear the collective story of you guys and how you persevered and overcame, because rejection is a powerful weapon against anybody, but yet you guys persevered. So I guess the one question I would want to know, I didn't see it written anywhere that it was suggested. 50 years later, you go back to get a collective apology from the school. And I know how cathartic an apology can be. Did Coach Eaton ever apologize? Did he ever let you guys know that he made a mistake at all?
No, he never did. He never did. Matter of fact, they had an article about him just before he passed away, saying that he would not change anything that he did.
So Brother Gibson, that's the kind of attitude, sadly, that still remains on this most recent Super Bowl. I was shocked when the chairman of our division asked me to do a commentary coming off of the piece that we did on Kenny Washington. Although it was said he broke the color barrier in 1920, there were blacks playing in the NFL as it was formed then, specifically Fritz Pollard and others. Look, Jared Bell knows more about it, and if I make a mistake, he can certainly embellish that. But from 1933 to 46, when there was an effort at collusion. Well, it was collusion where the owners decided not to have any blacks play in the league at all. So Kenny Washington, when they say he broke the color barrier, that to me, Jared, will be in quotations in that regard. And I still had to lovingly, as the word would tell us to do, you speak the truth in love, but to be emphatic in pointing out what the issue was. And for there still to be an issue today, please don't tell me that people, it's unconscious bias. It is a conscious bias to continue with that. And I still distinctly say that the answer is the biblical answer. And until there's a heart change, which means that you see excellence when you see color, because the question is, what do you see when you see color? You ought to see excellence in male, female, black, white, or anything. And that's still what's lacking. And I just pray that folks will deal with that, because for what you guys have done to Black 14, I'm absolutely amazed. And shame on me if I don't carry excellence into what I do for however much longer I'm doing this, because you guys are simply phenomenal to overcome such a stigma, a systemic and entrenched attitude that was there, and what you guys have done now. So I commend you highly. So not a question, just a comment after that.
Thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you, James.
You know, and what I want to hit, we got to keep on time in retrospect of going back to, we've talked a lot, but at the same time, I want you, Emily and Patricia and Keener, I want y'all sides of what you can. And I'll start with you, Patricia, because 3 years ago, you met a friend of mine, Stephen Hoyt, and we had a Zoom then, and you guys were asking me quite a few questions. What is your opinion? And now we're 3 years down the line, we're working together on projects. Give me a quick thought process of what you think about the Black 14 and what stuck out to you the most pertaining to that situation.
Thank you, Tony. Well, what struck out with the Black 14 is just the work you've accomplished so far, just your perseverance, the great attitude you've had. You suffered hardship, you experienced barriers, you know, as a result of your protests wanting to speak up against racism. And I know your theme, your comments about education was very inspiring, right? In your comments of saying you won't let what happened define you. That still resonates with many of us today, is you will not allow what happened to define you. You remained positive, you remained strong, you gave back to the community, you continue speaking up for racial injustice. And that's really what resonates with me and a lot of us over here, is how you kept going and kept such a great attitude despite what happened, and your leadership and your perseverance overall.
Emily, you look at it from the inside, and as I said, if it weren't for you, that we probably would not be having this situation right now. I don't know all the ins and outs, but what stuck out with you most, and what made you want to get involved with the Black 14?
Well, what made me initially want to get involved was meeting John Griffin. I met him, I was introduced by a faculty member, and our connection and relationship, talking about your story and just learning more about all of you, it was inspired by that first introduction to John Griffin. And then from there, when the School of Culture, Gender, and Social Justice wanted to bring you back for recognition, this was in February of 2019, our office really got busy and developing those relationships, really making it a connection about racial healing, and just paving the way for what I think was a phenomenal thing to happen in September of 2019, when the University of Wyoming apologized for the racial discrimination that you experienced while students at the University of Wyoming, not just on campus, but by the community. So really the story has been one of inspiration, one of healing, one of changing hearts and minds, and also a way to pave the way forward for the younger generation. Because had we not developed this relationship, we would not have established some of the initiatives that we have, such as the Black 14 Social Justice Summer Institute. That's creating a pipeline for students who lack access or have access challenges, addressing the racial diversity at the University of Wyoming, and hopefully creating a climate for them that is much better than what you experienced when you were students there. And also creating that entry point. We're using the Black 14 story as the starting point to talk about social justice and issues that affect the Black community and the Black diaspora. So that's just one partnership. We've got a lot of things going with the Black 14 that we're happy about. The Mind, Body, and Soul initiative, where we're addressing food insecurity across the country. The partnership that you have with us really addressed having so much food come into the state of Wyoming. That has been amazing, to charities here in Laramie, to the campus here in Laramie, the University of Wyoming, and also the Wind River Reservation and other groups tied to the Wind River Reservation. So it's been amazing.
Tina, and I look at you, and you are both sides. You can tell a little bit about your play in this and what you've been doing with the alumni and what you've been doing with us. And I like it because you can see it from the school's perspective, as well as you work with the Black 14 too. So give me your thought on that.
Well, Tony, I got invited to a dinner with most of you all. I think most of you all were back on campus about a year before the September 19 ceremonies and recognition and celebration. And that's really when I had a pretty familiar view, I thought, of the Black 14 situation from my time working in athletics and in the alumni side. But my eyes were open a lot more clearly when I first met you all. And then we stayed in touch, stayed connected. And then in September of 2019, the celebration was scheduled on the day of one of our board meetings. And so we had blocked out time because I wasn't sure where our board stood on this. I understood that maybe some activities like the Social Justice Institute were coming down the pike. And I said, that really resonates with us because we're not only about engaging alumni, but we're also about engaging with prospective students and encouraging them to come to the University of Wyoming. So when that ceremony began in September, we marched our board, about 40 board members, down the street here to the back of the stadium, and they heard the story. And I believe there was probably 10% that knew a bunch about the story. There was about 60, 70% in the middle. They knew a little bit. And then there was a few, frankly, didn't know much about the Black 14 at all. And so when they heard the presentation, heard the recognition, and as Mr. Brown had just said there, they heard and saw the forgiveness, frankly, in your all's hearts and the desire to move forward and to be advocates for the university in multiple ways. And the area that resonated with our board was this Black 14 Social Justice Summer Institute, knowing there wasn't money set aside for it yet. That next morning, our board gathered and approved $10,000 to begin the process of welcoming students of color to this university in a summer time. Now, it's been interrupted by the pandemic, but our board came back and said, we got to be involved in this. And I really have a sense that that 10,000 is going to be there whenever we get it kicked off, and then in the future. And then, as you know, Tony and John, we did a town hall in Mail a couple of months ago, raised another amount of money. And that's the area that I can tell this story and share it with you all, to our alumni. And the goal is to have sustaining support of $30,000 to $50,000 a year. So 30 to 50 kids could get that opportunity to experience UW, meet the Black 14, learn what it's like to be a UW student, examine social justice issues. But I think they will find that this is a welcoming place, and the Alumni Association is just really proud to be a part of this.
And I want to thank all you guys. I tell you, and it's been so helpful, and you guys hear what we've been going through. We'll take a short break right now, and I know you may have some questions on the other side of this, but at the same time, this has been so enjoyable listening to this and seeing how the stories have developed and how each person, as they found out, it hit them in different ways. And so with that being said, we got another segment coming up. It'll be a short one, but we'll take your questions then. Fans, come back. We'll be back in a moment.
Welcome to Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus Fitness Tip of the Week. My name is Jaleese Dawson with Fusion Fitness by Jaleese, and today I'm going to show you some easy things to elevate your heart rate and increase your flexibility. Grab your luggage, Place it on the ground and then hop over the luggage as many times as you can in 20 seconds, keeping those feet nice and light and quick. This exercise is not only good for boosting your heart rate, but it's great for warming up the entire body. Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know the guy from Terminator? This is one of his favorite arm workouts. Bring the free weight in front of your shoulder and extending upwards, turning your wrist counterclockwise as you bring the weight up. This exercise not only strengthens your deltoid muscles, but it also works your biceps and your triceps. Plank side steps. With your exercise mat on the floor, get in a plank or push-up position. Make sure you're nice and grounded with your fingertips spread wide. Then taking your right hand and right foot to the side, traveling all the way to the end of the mat. And once you get there, taking your left hand and your left foot all the way back to your original position. You're going to feel this all in your upper body, especially in your deltoid muscles. You're also going to feel this in your core. So remember to breathe, nice and controlled movements. Standing Starfish Abs. Extend both arms above your head. Inhale in, and as you exhale, bring one hand towards your opposite foot. Don't force your hand and foot to touch, just do what you can. This exercise is really going to strengthen your internal and your external obliques, as well as your transverse abdominis. So you're breathing, using that breath to get you from one place to the next. Nice and controlled, you're keeping that good posture. And most importantly, you can do this while you're binging Netflix. Awesome job today. Stay active, stay safe, and see you next time.
All right, we got a person that couldn't get on face-wise, but John, you wanted to add something to the conversation.
I did. Thanks, Tony. You know, in 1969, we didn't want that incident to define us. And moving forward to 2019, 2020, we want to be relevant partners with the University of Wyoming, because everybody thought we were going to be one trick pony and we're done and we'll never have to deal with it again. Well, that's not the case. With all the initiatives that we have forthcoming, and the other thing is that we want to build upon our legacy, and that legacy is being a relevant partner with the University of Wyoming, feeding into the legacy program and being able to reach out and help those in need.
Thank you. Any other questions before we close it down?
Hey, Tony, you know, they always say that in order to go forward, healing has to totally come. Has healing totally come for every member of the Black 14?
No. We had a few that they don't want to be involved with it. They don't want, it's no healing for them. And sometimes you have to put things aside and look at what's transpiring. And right now, I think justice has been served in a lot of ways, but other people feel different. So no, for everyone, no.
No, not at all.
Hey, you know what? If I could just coattail on what Donna is saying, and I better do it as an ordained minister, I better close up that way, Donna, to be true to that. But the fact of the matter is, while we understand and hurt for those who have not found closure on that, and I understand it, the fact of the matter is, that is what it's all about. It is forgiveness, because that's the only way we can move forward. I was so glad to hear from Patricia, Emily, and Keener as well, too, because the fact of the matter is, we're going to make so much more progress, sadly, at the expense of what happened. But the only way forward is for forgiveness to take place, and we're all going to be so much better for it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, the evidence of that is I've worked probably closer with John than some of the others, getting to know Tony more, and I've known Mel a pretty long time from my time in athletics. John, when all of this was taking place, he jumped in, and he has been one of the biggest advocates for students of all colors to come to the University of Wyoming. And so true forgiveness manifests itself in deeds and actions, not just words, and then they depart. And so I appreciate all of you all of the Black 14. I look forward to getting to know even more of you. You're on our board meeting agenda in April.
Yeah,
so
yeah, we are.
You're getting an invitation to that.
I want to thank all of you for coming on. We've had a lot of fun, but a lot of information went out today. And one thing about it is, always know one thing, this pandemic has taught us, you got to love your family, love your friends, but most of all, love yourself, and that will enable you to love others. We never say goodbye. We'll just say in the minute.